Behind is a guava tree and sometimes a family of monkeys, like a mid-morning snack. So if you see some disturbance behind me, that's that. And yeah, also our dog actually doesn't know about these monkeys. They're kind of a strange species. So he'll go crazy and then the monkeys will throw guavas at him. But apart from that, we're good to go. So thanks very much. And what I want to do is go through and talk to you and go through a presentation. So let me first get the technical bits out the way. We're going to talk about the return. And I just thought a lot of us running businesses right now, we're on that unicycle, we're juggling those balls and we're just trying to keep forwards. So in all of this, how are we going to manage the next normal? What is this next normal? If we don't know it, how are we going to manage it? And I guess what I'd like to tell you, it's almost like a tasting menu. You've got all these dishes. I just want to give you a little bit of each, but it's going to be also fast food because I'm going to attempt to do it in 45 minutes. I'll Khan on a bit, so I've asked Lisa and Brenna just to hurry me up. So an agenda. Start with who and why. Go on to have what and how, and then where and when. May sound odd, starting with who. A lot of us are going to find there's someone we lose through this pandemic. But my greater fear is when we lose something in ourselves. We lose hope, we lose faith, we lose belief in the future. And I think these words from Bob Dylan are never more prescient. We've got a choice. You're going to be feeling right now busy being born or busy dying, or being reborn. It's a time. This is something that was being taught to us at Free Thinkers by a very wise lady from South Africa, Joburg. She's now in Australia, Joan Lurie. And says, you know what? We're all in a system. And if you can think of your own system, whether you've got a big business, a small business, an NGO, whether you're running the country, it's a system. The system has got yourself, maybe others that work with you, your partners, staff, suppliers, customers, potential customers. It's all a system. And join me up on the balcony and look down on that system. Just have a look at it. Almost like all these people playing these roles, people coming in and out. And there's somewhere inside the system, there's you. And sometimes, you know, if there's some noise in the system and things don't seem to fit. And, you know, so often, have you heard, oh, you should change? I don't know if people change. Or if they do, they only become more of themselves. We are who we are. But there's also a third thing that happens in the system. What we do. We play a role in the system. Now, I don't mean a job, I don't mean CEO, I don't mean chief bottle washer. What's your role in the system? Are you the motivator? Are you the guide? What are you? And if you look down from that balcony, what role are you playing right now? Because although you may not be able to change you, the person, or you may not want to, you can change your role. You can change what you are in that system. That's part of being reborn. And think about your customers. And it sounds interesting. It's not really so much about who you want them to be, it's who do you want them to become. If I look at Amazon, look at Google, look at Facebook, don't want to look at Facebook, if I look at Facebook, they all did something very interesting. They got their customers becoming curators of content. They weren't passive recipients. Maybe this is one of the great gifts of the internet, and it was its original gift. We can be socially, physically distanced, but we can become a community. We can co-create something. Amazon, yes, it was fine because you can offer every book in the world. That's how it started. But it's something else. We curated what books we thought people should read. When I look at that, I don't, I read a critic's review. Probably I don't. I read the reviews of my peers. And I'll see how many people gave it a 5-star or 1-star. They're helping me choose. Amazon is really this huge, or it's a number of communities. So what about our customers? One of our clients is Workshop 17. They shouldn't be customers, not tenants. They become members of a community. And how do you do that? How do you actively do that? It's time to reset. Time to make our customers something more than customers. So why now? It's pretty obvious, but there's always inflection points. Often we as Free Thinkers were called in when there's a new CEO, when there's a merger, when there's an acquisition, when something is changing in the system. Something when that car hits that bump in the road or that big chasm. We really start thinking very hard. It's a natural time. We need those periods of reflections. We're going along the straight road, it's fine, another day, another dollar. When we hit the inflection point, it's necessary in our system to really think very deeply. And why we need it so much now. We have 3 great disconnects. This was from Otto Scharmer. The first, and something which is the most serious, we're disconnected from our planet. We're trashing it. It's quite strange in a way that we're reacting to COVID-19 that is most threat to some of us more advanced in years than others. But with the greater threat, we're threatening our children. Things we're doing now will have an effect on our children's future. You know, we make 3-year, 5-year plans, but if you think about a young one that you know, it could be a daughter, grandson, a nephew, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old. You're invested at least the next 70 years in their future. We have 5-year plans. We're disconnected from the planet. Why? A bit deeper, we're disconnected from each other. You think of world wars, you think of trade wars, religious wars. Why are we doing this? Why does the pun, love trump hate, hate trump love? It should be love trumps hate. But why is hate so strong in us? It's fine on the football field, but let's keep it to sport. Maybe there's even a deeper connect. Me and I, yes, people are becoming more affluent, people are becoming more depressed. From teen suicides to just this me-I war that goes on within us. What's happening with all of that? It's time to reconnect, and to reconnect through purpose, through shared belief, a shared belief in why I'm here, what difference I'm going to make, what are we going to make in the world, what are we all going to make in the world? What is that bridge between people and planet, the bridge between us and them, the bridge that makes me whole? This is a quote I read, I don't know, just over 20 years ago now. And it probably did more than anything else to set me personally on the path I am now. Because that's the old way, you know, the rewards, the punishments. But those last three lines resonate. So many of us want to be more. So many of us want to hunger to discover who we might become together. Who we might become together. I have, with three partners, become more of myself because of them. Together we are far stronger. And it's through a shared purpose. Some purposes that we and others have put together for clients. Clientele, one of the biggest insurance companies around. Safeguarding your world, yeah. You know, is it holistic? Are we doing enough for each of our clients? And this thing about compassion. In creating this, we talked about compassion from what Sun Tzu said a couple of thousand years ago to what Nelson Mandela said. And then what does compassion mean for a product, an insurance product? What does it mean for service? What does it mean inside, especially now with your own people? You know, it's quite interesting. I mean, we looked at it. There's sympathy, you know, shame, which is fine. There's empathy. I feel your pain. And there's compassion. What can I do about it? How can I help? Direct access, loans, unsecured loans. And what was interesting about this purpose is the first part, to give everyone we touch. Probably they turn down 90% of people who apply because their credit profile doesn't fit. So how do we give everyone we touch? They had to innovate, and they did, to actually reach out to everyone. Even the people we reject, how can we help them develop a better credit score? It's not just about the clients and the power to build. You know, there are good loans and there are not so good loans. And one of the things they did was actually change their processes inside. I remember it was the biggest spreadsheet I'd ever seen from their head of risk. And he said, look, there's 34 practices we do that may not be actually doing that. And this is what it's going to cost us to stop them or change them. And they did it. And they got record profits, by the way, the next year. Unlocking value in Africa from Genesis Analytics. They're the biggest economics consultancy now in Africa. The Africa part said, why are we in other countries, in India, etc.? Soon they opened office in Kenya. They're unlocking value before they take on a project. How much value can we unlock for the client and country in this project? And if they don't think they can, they won't do it. They look at it before, they analyze it afterwards. To change the business model. So these purpose has got to do a job in life. It's just not some nice words. You know, one client said to us, oh, should we put it on our website? We said, well, not before you're doing it. And once you're doing it, what's the point? They put it in their annual report. This we didn't create. And it's a company I very much admire. I had the honor of doing some work with. And what I like about it is its honesty. You know, this is what we do, and how do we do it better? And they probably do it as good as anyone and better than most. But it's focus. They've always been focused. From Nike, Nike began by just being about winners. I remember an old poster, and it was about the time of the Olympics, oh gosh, 20 years ago. And there was an athlete, and he was full of sweat, and he looked absolutely finished. And the line went on the poster, he didn't win silver, he just lost gold. And then they realized this was being a bit elitist. No, this is not just for a few people. This is for everyone. It changed the whole business and the way it approached everything. And then finally, for a long time, we were the shoemaker's son, telling everyone else about purpose. And then it came to us, because sometimes it just doesn't come quickly, what we were about. And we work with businesses, we work with blue chips, we work with new chips, we work with places, from precincts to cities. And in each case, what we believe we do is liberate potential. There is so much inside us, and there's all this noise in the system often. There are these roadblocks. It's just looking at them, hearing them, and working out how to remove them. What and how? Strategy and culture. Peter Drucker once wrote a very famous phrase, culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's great. There's only one issue. In almost every company we've worked with, it's wrong. It's wrong because, one, why should one thing be more important than another? If you're in a big company, and so what, does the HR department lord it over the strategic department? How can that work? How can that bring people together? And so I thought, what is really going on here? And there was a facilitator forum and people giving suggestions. And one guy came up with something that I always remember. He said, you know, strategy and culture are like a dancing couple. Strategy may lead, culture provides the style for music. And it's right, if there is a shared purpose, strategy and culture must dance in that company together. And so the purpose flows through strategy. It flows through culture. It brings us all together. And in a strategy way, part of being born is rethinking your business model. Part of our income stream is consultancy. And it was very interesting. There was two companies came to us in the space of 24 hours and said, you know, we've had to furlough. We're thinking of furloughing some of our people that work for us, or maybe there's a pay cut. We love working with you, but how can we? What are the optics of paying a consultant when we've got problems in paying our staff or suppliers? How about a partnership? Can we look at gain sharing? What's a new model? And found that very interesting. So really do think your business model. I'm not saying throw out all the old stuff. In investing, there's something called the barbell strategy. The average investor, if you're going on to stock exchange or unit trusts, you've got a broker, they'll say, are you high risk, medium risk, low risk? Most of us somewhere in the middle. So you get all these medium risk portfolios. And the professional investors, and Taleb was one, Nicholas Taleb said, absolutely wrong. That's absolutely the opposite of what professional investors do. They have the barbell strategy. Well, the unequal sides of the barbell. 80% is low risk, reliable. You know it's going to have a decent return. It may not shoot the lights out, it's decent. 20% is the high risk. You know what? There's 2 or 3 things happening, 4 or 5 things I've got here. Maybe 4 will fail, but that 5th one will shoot the lights out. That'll be the great one. So maybe in our business models, we've got to think of the portfolio of stuff we do and how we do it. Some, yeah, bring in that regular income. But for some, is it worthwhile just thinking out of our usual box? In terms of strategy, there's a business model that we like very much and we use quite often. It comes from Lafley and Martin. It's called Playing to Win. As I said, it's a tasting menu. I'm going to go through it just very quickly. But if you're interested, do read more about it to see how it works. Lafley, by the way, was head of P&G when, after decades of slump, it came back to the powerhouse it is. And this is the model he used, so it works. Start off, what? When I say start off, yeah, what's the winning aspiration? What's that purpose that really is going to make a difference in the world? Where we play, not only a geographic area, where on the demographic scale? Are you bottom of the pyramid, top of the pyramid? Are you with millennials or golden oldies? Male, female? Where are you playing? What communities are you talking to and where? And if you play, you don't play to play, you play to win. How are you going to win? What is it that you can do that is going to bring people to you? How are you going to play that home game? And how are you going to play the home game is often what capabilities must be in place. Steve Jobs started, where was he playing? He was playing to begin with, in the personal computer space, and then obviously it came what it is today. But the capabilities were in place. Where he had comparative strength was design, being holistic, whether it was in the technology or whether it was in the aesthetics. He brought those two together. And he was unrelenting in doing that. So what capabilities are in place? And then the management systems that make it all work, the infrastructure, the plumbing. And what is interesting about this system is you can start with the winning aspiration, or you can start with the capabilities. I would say always start with the why. But to get all those things happening together, and you can do it for the whole business, you can do it for a product within the business. It's a powerful, powerful way of organizing what you do. And then on the culture side, it's a song of me, us, and all. For me, when you have that purpose flowing through you, I can be, as I said, the best I can be. As a team, we know as a unit, we know where we are in this bigger part, the part we play. Are we the lead violins? Are we the bassoon? What are we? And then all, what we're reaching out to do to the world around us. What and how together innovation? Talked about Steve Jobs. He was going to make a ding in the universe. And that's great. There's a few of us are going to be Steve Jobs. One of my favorite authors is John le Carré. And there's a character in his book, and he said, you know, John le Carré is always about spies and why we're really doing this. Are we going to make much of a difference? And someone asked this guy who was standing out in the middle of the night. He was old, cold, and not sure why he was doing it. He said, why are we doing this? What difference is it going to make? And he said, you know what? That you can only do a little. There's no excuse for doing nothing. And we all make these ripples in the future. We're all making some kind of difference. And when it works in companies, when it works in organizations, you have some of us make disruption, totally new thing, changing the way the world sees the things. Then you get the Toyotas of this who say everyone can make small improvements every day. That's Kaizen. All those little improvements. And maybe we're not going to reinvent the wheel today. We'll make a hubcap harder to dent. And through all those small things, we can create new cars every few years. And Kaizen is very powerful, it's very strong, where everyone has a role in co-creating the future. Innovation isn't just for the few of us. It's for everyone to contribute. That's not my idea or your idea. It's ours. Well, I started off my life in advertising. And you know, when you're in advertising, you almost, brands are created because of you. You know, if the profits and sales go up, it's totally because of you. And if they don't, well, the client was an idiot anyway, or destroy everything. And that's fine, except, again, it's not true. So what makes a great brand? And I found this out after I left advertising and started to work with and for and in organizations. I'll give you an analogy about an avocado. When you buy an avocado, unless you're a horticulturalist, you'll throw the pips away. They're useless. But you know, that pip was the source of the avocado. It's the source of a tree. It's the source of a whole forest. The pip is a source of renewable energy. And so I think of the whole avocado. The pip is your culture, your strategy, that purpose, that force within inside. The flesh of the avocado is the brand, and the skin is the communication. It tells you what you're going to get. But good, strong cultures make good, strong brands. So now I'm going to get to the where and the when. Social distancing, it's strange, a strange name. Physical distancing, but I don't know if you've noticed, but socially there's almost more togetherness now. I've been connecting with people connecting with me that somehow we've fallen out of touch with over the years. Within our own partnership at Free Thinkers, we've grown closer. Yet we have to rethink space. Also with the blended work, a lot of people who can go back to work thinking, well, I don't know if I want to. And when I was in Cape Town, I was living in Noordhoek. And going into town, it could take, in Russia, if I was there an hour each way, I was doing pretty well. 2 hours out of my life each day. So maybe I can stay at home today and do the work from home. What's going to happen to office spaces? Hey, I quite like ordering from Woolies and just having it delivered or Spar. What's going to happen to malls? Is there going to be a big difference? And what will they become? And then I think of office spaces. There's a huge opportunity. You know, we look at call centers, you look at the office space, it hasn't changed much in a few hundred years. It's like rows of desks. What could it be? Do you actually have half the office space? Or do you make it does a workspace become something else, something different? You know, workspace is a desk, but when I go to the office, is there something else that makes it a social work experience? What does a new work experience feel like, look like? What do malls become? The original mall was started as, it was in the States, and the original mall was going to be a place where people in the suburbs could meet together, because where do you meet in a suburb? And then, of course, all the supermarkets and everything took over, and the social thing got kind of lost. What can that happen again? How will space change? Sorry, that was a bit of a jump. And then the when. There's a balance, and that's why this guy's up there. There's the urgent, there's the important, there's the urgent, there's the important. And we're busy balancing. And to help, there's a technique called 3 horizons. And I think it's very useful now. It's very useful now. The first horizon, right now, in this period of, are we returning? Will the return stop again? Will it start again? Will we go back to level 5? Will we hit level 2? Will we jump to level 4? What's going to happen? In this period, it's first conserve. Yeah, we've got to conserve cash. We've got to conserve some energy. We've got to just conserve. We've also got to connect, reach out. There may not be business tomorrow or even the next day, but connect. And you start co-creating. How can we work together to enter this new, and as one of my partners says, a new and fuzzy world? There'll be fuzzy goals. We don't quite know what's happening. But let's start co-creating. If nothing else, it's that co-creation muscle that we're exercising. It's, you know, getting the dumbbells out. Horizon 2 is, okay, we're at level 1 now. Wow. The world's looking a bit battered and bruised, so is our business. We start reassessing. We start rebuilding. I don't know how long level 1, horizon 1 is. I don't know how long horizon 2 is. By the way, these horizons, you start looking at them at the same time. They'll have different end dates, but their beginning dates are now. But different proportions of your day are spent on them. And then there will be a time where the new normal, the next normal is established, however that may look like. There'll be a time of evolution and a time of revolution, hopefully a peaceful revolution, a revolution of connecting with us and them, with us and our planet. So the question I leave you with is, there's a difference, you know, between fate and destiny. Fate's what happens. What happens to you, to me, to all of us. It's our fate to live in this time of a global pandemic. That's fate. Destiny is our choice of what to do about it. We make our destiny. And our destiny could be right now about busy being born or busy dying. And my guess is, if you've listened to me thus far, if you've looked at this thus far, you have hope. You want to be busy being born. So thanks very much. That's the tasting menu I wanted to give you. If you're interested in some other thinking, Finding Why, I wrote a few years ago, and it's why enterprises are pursuing purpose. Changing Places came out at the end of last year. For some time, we've been pursuing facilitating futures of towns, precincts. One of the most recent ones was what do you do with a diamond mining town in the Namib Desert when diamonds become uneconomical to mine? So thanks very much. I'm going to stop the share. And is it time for some questions?
Mike, thank you.
Yeah.
Absolute privilege to hear your thoughts and to be given the opportunity really just to think and be prompted by your questions and your observations. So an enormous thank you from us at ORT. And if people would like to post their questions into the chat box, then we can open to the Q&A. I think there's one here. Will all the social distancing change once the vaccine has been found, or is this new normal here to stay?
That's one of the great imponderables. I believe that for some of us, again, the social distance is designing for social distance or physical distance will be a concern. I don't know. Again, we can say, yes, a vaccine is found, and then we know what happens with diseases, pandemics, they can mutate. But right now, will we be sitting six abreast in a airplane? Right now, if football reopens in the UK, will stadiums have 60,000 people in? We'll be thinking about it. We'll be cautious. And I think for some people, it'll go absolutely back to normal. But for others, there'll be a reticence and there'll be a greater awareness. But I do think some things will change, because I think that within shopping malls, as this is accelerating the move to online. And for a lot of people who almost had a fear of doing it, that fear would have been quenched. For retailers who were concerned, should they do it, shouldn't they? They'll find ways of doing it. So some things will accelerate.
Here's a question from Brenna. What are your thoughts on repurposing all the empty office spaces?
I think that's going to be, again, that's the effect is going to first, if we think of the roll-on effect, where we're on the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal, and there's been enormous rebuilding of new offices and everything. I remember the phrase of Alan Greenspan, irrational exuberance. I think a lot are going to be empty. I think there is going to be an issue. I remember seeing that in Europe, in Spain, Portugal, some years back during the recession. Suddenly there was just these half-empty buildings. The repurposing of them, there's again, what I've seen in the center of Durban is very interesting. There was the white flight, the businesses leaving, some skyscrapers empty. Then they were converted to, very reasonable apartments, low-cost apartments, aimed at first jobs, with very good security, with shared services, with great Wi-Fi, and there are now waiting lists. That's for quite a few buildings. So some will be repurposed. It will need bucks to do it, but if I think of housing demand, of what we still have is people coming from rural areas to the towns for jobs and things like that. There's all these shanty towns here. surely there is some way of looking at the great need on the one hand and the supply on the other, and making something work there. It has begun to do that, and there's an opportunity to do it more.
Mike, please can you elucidate more on your thoughts of evolution and revolution in terms of some examples?
Okay. I guess I'll go back to, for evolution, it is the Kaizen way, very much the Japanese way. It was very interesting. I read recently a book on the early days of Detroit, and they go up till the 80s, 90s, and then looking at, and it was looking very much at Ford, then it was looking at Nissan in Japan. And Ford almost went from jumps and then regression, then jumps. I mean, the Model T was a huge leap, but then it was kept on probably at least 10, 15 years too long. And then there was the leap to a Mustang, and then that regressed as well. Whereas in Nissan, it started off by, first, Japan started with the steel industry, getting the steel industry right. And then from the steel industry evolving into cars, and first very bad cars actually, and then improving and improving and improving and making each little step. I remember a story for Honda. When Honda were going to come to America, they sent their design team over to go to Disneyland, but not into Disneyland, to the car park. And they sat in that car park for 2 weeks, just looking at how families got in and out of cars, loaded and unloaded cars. And then designed a car that became the best-selling imported car in America. That's evolution. Revolution is high stakes. Revolution is that side of the barbell with those small bets, and 4 will flame out and 1 will conquer great, catch fire. Evolution is the ones that you know are going to get a good return every year. And I guess having said that, then it's good to think in our portfolio of work to have a little bit of both, or maybe a lot of evolution and some revolution.
I have a question. The flow of emotion during this period, since this all started from feeling overwhelmed, fear, anxiety, all these emotions, how do you best guide us in coping with them and then, trying to create the next normal within our own spaces, whether you, as you said in the beginning, are running a corporate or a micro business or an NGO. We are all dealing with these kind of thoughts, emotions, and challenges. But how can you help us in moving forward?
The first thing is, I don't think we should suppress the emotions we feel. But they're there, they're legitimate, they're a part of us, the person that we are. And it's also to look at the emotion. So it's not deny, you're not terrible for thinking this. Or it's how you feel, but then look at how you feel and really consider it. I guess in this time as well, we can listen better, we can observe better, and that we can feel is wonderful in itself. And it is just then consider the feelings and not be ruled by them. They're part of us. There may be warning signs, and fear is okay. Fear is something that has kept humanity alive. But it can't be consuming, because that way just kills all the hope inside you.
Thank you. In your opinion, based on the experience of interacting with individuals of different fields, what has been the most pertinent change?
Again, I think it's that. I think it's reflection. It's so easy for us, as I said, to get up and do what we have done and carry on doing what we've done. And we get to a stage, I think there's something inside people, I don't know if it's quite answering the question. We have two things. We have fear of loss and hope of gain in anything we're doing right now. And when fear of loss overweighs hope of gain, we become ever cautious, we become that tortoise that ducks right inside the shell. We don't want to get out, we don't want to share stuff. And when hope of gain totally overpowers fear of loss, we're reckless. And I think what is happening right now is, I guess, and again, as well in South Africa, we're quite different from many other countries. I think it's somewhere like America where it's just been hope of gain. I mean, recently, the last number of years, they've been on a rise. Whereas in South Africa, for many people, and a fear of loss, a loss of this magic land of Madiba, of Tutu's Rainbow Nation, that slow erosion that we've had as a country has almost overtaken us. And maybe where an America now is suddenly embracing this fear of loss, with all the stuff that we have, and the economists saying that we're going to lose so many more lives because of the economic lockdown, I'm almost detecting something else happening here. That despite it all and because of it all, this is where South Africans are at their best. Somehow we've got to wait till the world writes us off. And then something happens. Now that may be because of at heart I am an optimist. I feel it underneath all the noise. And there's a lot of noise.
There's this question, I'm not quite clear, regarding your point about joining up and supporting, connecting. For low-income people, contact through video is very expensive. How do we overcome this?
There's not much of a short-term solution. What I really fear about with people who are living right on the edge, lockdown's been fine. I'm sitting out here. My biggest concern is whether dog barking is disturbing other people. But there's three of us in a 3-bedroom house. It's fine. What about 20 people in 2 rooms? What does even the concept of social distancing mean there? How can you do it? Is there just this sense of vitality, and that I think is really difficult. And then in the end, there it should be, and there won't be quickly. But to answer that question very precisely, right now, in fact, it's lovely. I've been privileged to be involved with a telecoms company that, I mean, you've had police call me that people can actually phone and get a call back, but that's always been because you've had some airtime. And now there's just been something introduced, and it was been introduced in Nigeria 18 months ago, and with Cell C a month ago, where you can call with no airtime. Pings and you get a call back. And if that can be done for voice, can it in the end be done for video? But voice is good enough too, sure. I can't show a slideshow on voice. But voice has always connected us. Voices reach out. And I do believe, again, this great unraveling of what was, people will start thinking about that. How you can connect the disconnected, the unconnected. It's already happening. In Kenya, Google have got Loon, that these big balloons that you may have read about, floating up in the sky, that just cover the whole area with internet. And that's because they're going to disaster areas right now. It's happening. And we'll be privileged to be in an age where global communication becomes as much as a human right as water is.
And do you think that's going to happen here in South Africa? That it'll be a given for all in the short to medium term?
I'm not going to pin myself down to a date, but yes, it's going to happen to all. And it may even happen to all before we have universal access to water, because we do need a few other things as well here. But I do know it's happening. Funny enough, it's happening in countries that are poorer than South Africa. And it's almost that we're too privileged to get it all right now. That sounds crazy, but it's absolutely true. As I say, in disaster areas, in rural areas in Africa, where there's fear of drought and everything else, where to get forecasts of rain and stuff is life or death. That's where it's happening right now. That's where it should happen right now. So it's happening really from the bottom up.
Okay. Any more questions? Well, Mike, thank you. Once again, appreciate your time, your insights, your clarity, and your knowledge. And just having this hour with you has been an unbelievable gift. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining us, and hope you join us at the next one on Friday. All the best.
Thanks very much. Bye now.
Ciao.